If you hold APT, want to buy APT, or are thinking of shorting it, August 12th is a date you need to understand, because on the same day, Aptos has a scheduled token unlock, and US CPI is also coming out. So the question everyone is asking is simple: will the APT unlock crash the price? But there is a problem with the way the story is being presented. An unlock does not mean all those tokens will be sold. So today, we're going to answer the questions that actually matter. How much APT is unlocking? Who gets the tokens? How much could realistically be sold? Will investors dump APT? Should you buy before or after the unlock? What APT price levels actually matter? And most importantly, what should you do if you're a trader, an existing holder, or a long-term investor? Let's start with the number everyone is watching. On August 12th, approximately 11.31 million APT is scheduled to unlock. That's about 0.54% of total APT supply, and roughly 1.34% of the current circulating float. But the allocation isn't going entirely to investors. The current breakdown is approximately 3.96 million APT to core contributors, 3.21 million to the community, 2.81 million to investors, and 1.33 million to the foundation. So when you see 11.31 million APT unlocking, don't automatically translate that into 11.31 million APT will be dumped. Those are two completely different things. The investor portion is around 2.81 million APT, and that leads to the next question: who is actually likely to create selling pressure? This is where the unlock story becomes much more interesting. Unlocked does not equal sold. The moment tokens become transferable, recipients can sell them, but they can also hold them, stake them, move them into DeFi, or transfer them elsewhere. So the question isn't, did APT unlock? We already know it did. The question is, where do those tokens go next? If newly unlocked investor tokens start moving toward exchanges, that's a much stronger selling signal. If they remain in wallets, get staked, or move elsewhere without reaching exchange liquidity, the immediate sell pressure can be much smaller. And there is another important point. APT has shown weakness around previous scheduled unlocks. Traders can front-run known supply events. They can sell before the unlock, they can short, they can hedge, and they can buy back if the expected selling never materializes. So if you're asking, will APT crash after the unlock, the answer is not necessarily. The real risk is whether actual selling overwhelms demand. Now here's where August 12th gets really interesting. The token unlock isn't happening in isolation. US July CPI is also scheduled for August 12th. That creates two separate catalysts on the same day. One is APT specific, new tokens become transferable. The other is macro, the market gets fresh inflation data that can affect interest rate expectations and risk assets. So imagine three different outcomes. Scenario 1, CPI is friendly, crypto remains stable, APT selling stays contained, and price holds support. In that situation, the unlock could simply be absorbed. Scenario 2, CPI is hotter than expected, crypto weakens, APT investors sell, and support breaks. Now the same unlock becomes much more dangerous. Scenario 3, CPI is neutral, but APT-specific selling is heavy. APT can still move lower even if Bitcoin and the wider market are relatively stable. That's why I don't want you thinking APT unlock equals dump. The better framework is unlock plus selling pressure plus price structure plus macro. That's what determines the trade. Now let's get to the part most retail traders actually want to know. What APT price levels should I watch? Forget random APT price predictions. You don't need 10 indicators. I would focus on three areas. First, 57 cents, 54.99. This is the key downside level I'm watching. If APT loses this area with real selling pressure behind the move, the bearish case gets stronger. Second, around 60 cents. This is the current decision zone. It's where I want to see whether buyers can actually absorb the supply. Third, 60 cents and above. A sustained reclaim above this area, especially with stronger volume and no obvious selling spike, would improve the bullish setup. So keep the framework simple. Below 54 cents, 50.99, downside risk increases. Between 54 cents, 50.99, and 60 cents, no clear edge. Above 60 cents with confirmation, bullish setup improves. And notice what I'm not giving you, a magical APT price prediction for the end of 2026. Because for this event, The reaction matters more than the prediction. This is probably the biggest question for anyone considering a new APT position. Should I buy APT before or after the unlock? My answer is simple. I would rather wait for the reaction than guess the reaction. Why? Because before the unlock, you don't know how much investors will sell. You don't know whether the market has already priced in the event. You don't know whether APT will hold support. And you don't yet know what CPI will do to the broader crypto market. After the event, you have something much more valuable: evidence. You can see whether selling actually appeared. You can see whether exchanges received meaningful APT inflows. You can see whether 0.5459 held. And you can see whether the broader crypto market absorbed the macro news. That doesn't mean buying after the unlock is automatically better. It means you're making the decision with more information. So if you're asking, should I buy APT before the August 12 unlock? My answer is, don't buy simply because you expect the unlock to be bullish or bearish. Wait for the market to tell you what it thinks. The first 24 to 72 hours after the unlock may tell you more than the headline itself, and you'll only need to watch 3 things. Number 1, selling. Are investor or newly unlocked tokens moving toward exchanges? If yes, selling pressure is becoming real rather than theoretical. Number 2, price. Does APT hold 54.5 cents? If it does, buyers are showing up. If it breaks while selling increases, that's a very different signal. Number 3, the broader market. Is Bitcoin stable? Are altcoins holding up? Did CPI increase or reduce risk appetite? Because APT doesn't trade in a vacuum. And here's the simple decision tree. Selling contained plus support holds plus crypto stable equals unlock may be absorbed. Selling increases plus support breaks plus crypto weakens equals downside risk rises. And remember, the biggest move doesn't necessarily happen at the exact unlock timestamp. Traders can front-run known supply events, so watch the positioning before the event and the reaction after it. Now, let's move from the trade to the investment question. Because August isn't the whole Aptos story. The scheduled unlock cycle continues through September and October. And Aptos launched in October 2022. So the market is getting closer to the end of the original 4-year investor and core contributor vesting period. That changes the long-term question. Instead of asking how much Aptos is unlocking this month, investors eventually need to ask what happens when recurring investor unlock pressure becomes much less important. And that's where Aptos' newer tokenomics become relevant. Aptos now has a 2.1 billion APT maximum supply. Its supply structure also includes fee-burning and permanently locked APT. So yes, the supply story is improving. But here's the part retail investors cannot ignore. Better tokenomics do not automatically create demand. This is the question I think matters most. Is APT actually worth owning in 2026? There are 2 very different arguments. The bullish argument is unlock pressure eventually declines, the supply structure improves, Aptos continues developing the network, and protocol upgrades are aimed at supporting larger-scale activity and DeFi use. The bearish argument is supply improvements don't matter if demand doesn't grow. And this is where investors should stop obsessing over tokenomics alone. Watch network activity, TVL, fees, ecosystem usage. Because ultimately, the long thesis needs one simple outcome: more real demand for the network. If demand grows while supply pressure falls, the setup becomes much more interesting. If supply improves but demand remains weak, better tokenomics alone won't save the valuation. And that brings us to something important. If you're finding this kind of analysis useful and you want to go beyond headline-driven crypto news, want a verified institutional edge? Join the Axiom Intelligence Specialist Desk. You get high-conviction crypto intelligence and vetted execution protocols. The goal is simple: stop guessing the market's next move. Normally $62.49, it's now $49.99 a month. Or you can test the system risk-free with a 3-day trial for just $5. The link is in the description. Now, back to APT. Because the biggest question isn't just what happens on August 12, it's what happens after the unlock cycle starts fading as an overhang. So let's make this practical.
If you're an existing APT holder, don't panic simply because you see APT token unlock trending. Watch selling pressure and the key price levels. If 0.5459 cent breaks with confirmed selling, your risk picture changes. If the market absorbs the unlock and price stabilizes, that's different information. If you're a new buyer, I would rather wait for confirmation than try to predict the August 12 candle. If you're a short-term trader, the setup is simple. Long setup, selling remains contained. APT holds support. The broader crypto market remains stable and price confirms strength. Short setup, selling increases. APT breaks 0.5459 cent and broader market conditions weaken. No trade setup, price stays trapped between the key levels and the evidence is conflicting. In that situation, there is no reason to force a trade. And if you're a long-term investor, don't make your entire APT thesis about August. Watch what happens as the remaining unlock cycle runs down. Because eventually the question becomes, can Aptos generate enough real demand to support its improved supply structure? That's the question that will matter much more than one unlock candle.
So will the August 12 APT unlock crash the price? It could increase short-term selling pressure, but the unlock itself does not guarantee a crash. The numbers are important. The 11.31 million APT unlock is real. The investor allocation is about 2.81 million APT, and the market has shown before that traders can front-run these events. But the real signal comes from what happens next. Do the tokens reach exchanges? Does APT hold 54.59 cent? Does the market reclaim 60 cent? What does CPI do to crypto? And beyond August, can Aptos turn better supply mechanics into real demand? That's the entire trade in one sentence. Don't trade the unlock headline, trade the market's reaction to the unlock. And for long-term investors, don't ask only how much APT is being unlocked, ask whether the network is creating enough demand to absorb the supply. That's the APT question that matters after August, after October, and into 2026. If this analysis added value, please like, share, and subscribe to keep this research accessible. Stay disciplined, protect your capital. See you in the next briefing.